All right. What's up, YouTube? Today we're doing a tonight we're doing a little podcast here. I'm your host, Temujin Vang, and I have
Riven, Alvinez.
yep, and we are here talking about my writing. So, just to give like a little summary, my writing is about being a Hmong American in America, and it expresses how um, being Hmong is really difficult in the land of America because there's a lot of multicultural experiences here in which it kind of dilutes us as Hmong individuals into a more open and more free-minded individual, which then at a cost we lose our old traditions and old customs. So Riven here will be asking me some questions from our peers who are not here today, but he'll be the spokesperson for those two. So Riven, what questions do you have for my writing?
Alright, so Alex asks, when you say Hmong individual in your title, what do you mean by Hmong individual? What defines destroying or creating a Hmong person?
So what do I mean by Hmong individual? Well, when I'm thinking about a Hmong person, I like to think like the old way, how they're, with their Hmong clothes. Maybe they might know all the rituals or some parts of each ritual. And then, of course, they have the thrill, or not the thrill, but like the will to survive because of our ancestors. That's what I think what a Hmong person is. He or she is a person who is really dedicated to survival and bringing that survivalness to the family and ensuring that the family clan is safe. That's what I think a Hmong person is. And of course, you also have like our beliefs like shamanism, which is a core value in our system. And what was the other one?
What defines destroying or creating a Hmong person?
What defines the destruction or creation of a Hmong individual? Well, how I see it is that let's start about creating. So when I say or when I see about or my perspective of creating a Hmong individual is that of course by blood they have to be Hmong, and then they do all that stuff that I just mentioned earlier. Wearing the clothing, knowing the traditions, knowing how to play something or an instrument, maybe knowing how to sing songs or folk tales from the past. And obviously that is Hmong, believing our tradition as well. That is also Hmong, like shamanism or stuff like that. And destroying Hmong people, or not the people, but like the individual itself and the identity would probably be, in my definition, is when they no longer remember what being Hmong is. They just maybe they have the blood of being Hmong, but that doesn't really mean that. It does mean you're Hmong, but if you cannot carry the traditions of the old ways, then I feel like, in my perspective, you're not really like Hmong, you know, because at that point, Hmong is like a multi-diverse little minority group, an ethnic group from China. So when we think about Hmong, it's like you have Hmong Chinese, and then you have Hmong Thai, and then you have Hmong Thailand, and we have Hmong Laos. And obviously, some of these families they have intermarriage with those people from those regions. So when you kind of think of what is Hmong blood and how that is being destroyed, I feel like having a Hmong person, destroying their own identity would probably be like they're no longer able to remember what rituals or what practices that our families have done. That's what I would define it as. When they can no longer remember the culture itself, that is how I would define the destruction of a Hmong individual's identity.
Awesome, thank you. Now we have some questions by Tanvi. The first one that I have for you is, as an American born and raised yet ethnically Hmong person, do your two cultural identities conflict and coexist?
Of course, they do really conflict but sometimes you just have to choose one over another. You know, as a Hmong person, I believe like some of the medicines that we use, how my parents taught me was that some of the medicines that we use are not good enough, even though scientifically, like in an American sense, they are good. They are there to like help you like develop immunities to like some diseases, or maybe to cure you from, not cure, but help you out with like some what's it called, illnesses that you have. I just said like the same thing, but yeah, there are some conflicts between the two realms of the American world and the Hmong world. For an example, uh, we can't do our practices as long as we would have done. Like at funerals, I remember funerals used to be like maybe at least around like a week long, and it's been 3 days to a week long, and now funerals nowadays are like being shortened up to like one day, which is very unusual because as a person who plays the kang is like an instrument, wind instrument for Hmong people. It is an instrument that is played during like funerals, festivals, and weddings, but mostly at funerals. And the songs that they play at the funeral are extremely long. And my master, who is teaching me, he said that in the old days they used to play these songs like, I think about 24 times, or like more than 24 times, or even more or less than that, around the 20ish numbers. And it will be like on a repeat, and these songs will last for like more than 12 hours, like maybe like 24 hours. But nowadays, as we're adapting to American culture, and of course American culture has like, you have jobs to go to on that Monday, or on that Tuesday, you have to shorten these songs in order to fulfill those other side quests that you have. Like maybe you might go to a funeral and you can't play the song as long as you should be playing, so you shorten the song and you take shortcuts. And that's like one conflict that is happening between the two worlds that I see. And as a person who is both Hmong and American, yeah, it is really conflicting.
Okay, thank you. Second question. Humans are very binary people. We see things as black and white. However, the name of the instrument, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm so sorry, is played at both weddings and funerals, directly opposing this binary. How does the artist, you, playing the instrument, experience your identity when playing for these two opposite atmospheres?
So when I play the instrument, again, it's a reminder of of me being Hmong. It's like, okay, I know I'm an American, and as when I was young, I thought I was like a Caucasian white boy. I thought, because when I was young, no one said that I was a Hmong person, and I grew up with like American customs. There's Christmas, Thanksgiving, yeah, Fourth of July, New Year's. That's all American things that I think. And how does me playing my instrument, um, what help my identity, right? How does my instrument playing help my own identity? Well, it brings me a reminder of how the ancestors before me would play this instrument, and then at the same time, in order to even learn this instrument, you have to learn the language itself, because people who are playing this instrument, they all speak. They mostly speak in Hmong, and the instrument itself also speaks in Hmong. So if you can't speak Hmong, then you can't play the instrument, and it would just be way too difficult. So in a way, the instrument is preserving my own identity, and blocking it and saving it from like the multicultural diversity of America, and what other countries bring into this into my mind. Because I like to think that Hmong is like my what's it called? It's like my spine, right? Being Hmong is like my spine, and then all the other little parts that I gained from other cultures are just like the little ribs that help connect maybe some ideas together. But they will never be um, they will never be on top of my Hmong beliefs. And that's how playing this instrument, it just uh, strengthened that beliefs. So yeah.
Okay. How does the way of playing this instrument and the music change as the occasion changes?
So as I mentioned earlier, playing the kang is you could play for funeral, or you could play for weddings, or you could play for festivals. How does one change their way when playing it? For funerals, when you play it, sometimes you might go under the drum, or you might kneel down, and then you might, mostly for if you're playing like the very important song, you might be playing staying still or just standing still, and you might sway your instrument back and forth, but you'll most likely be standing still because that's how you should play at the funeral. For festivals, there's a lot of different things that's happening in festivals, and I think festivals and weddings are relatively similar. But festivals, you do like a whole bunch of dance, and you're like hopping around and you're spinning around with while playing this instrument simultaneously, and it's incredible. Some of the skills that I've seen that are posted on YouTube and Facebook and sometimes Instagram, these people are very well skilled in their in playing the instrument, and you're like wondering like wow, and I wonder too, because I can't even perform it as good as they can, and I've been playing this instrument for like about 2-ish years. But yeah, that's how like you can differentiate which songs are gonna play to. Plus the songs also, it changes like the mood of the occasion.
Okay. As the last person in your family to play, how do you aim to conserve this legacy? Do you often feel like this unspoken pressure to continue this legacy is unfair?
um to be honest, I don't really know if I'm the last person to play it then, but in reality, I think I might be the last person to play for my family clan. Not for my family, not for the entire clan that I am in, but just for my little family, because I don't have a person who to guide me. I don't have. I'm learning from a different person who is he is part of my family, but he's very extremely different. Not distant, not different, but I am learning from that, and I didn't have anyone who is like older to guide me upon like how to play this instrument or how to do this type of ritual the correct way, or stuff like that, because the last person who knew how to do most of the stuff and most of the Hmong culture was my grandpa, but around he passed away in 2008. So it was very early and very sudden for us, and he wasn't able to teach any of us what he learned. So, and how do I feel knowing that I might be the last person of my own family to play this instrument? I feel sad. It hurts my heart, and I feel like I know that I have nephews and nieces who I could teach it to. Because I'm the newer generation, I will allow myself to teach it to my nieces, to my daughters, or to my sons. Because in the old traditional sense, you're not supposed to teach playing this instrument to girls. But since I'm newer, I would allow that. And I feel sad. I don't even think my own sons and daughters will even play this instrument. To be honest, I feel like they're just gonna look at it and have it be on display for like the entire house to see. But it is sad. I think it is really sad to see that most of our culture is slowly dying off, and I feel like this is why diversity is destroying uh, Hmong individuals' um, identity. Because obviously, as within my writing, I put a little question that some readers might have, and it asks, "Why are you like putting these three stories?" So in my writing, I displayed three stories that talks about different ways of how this instrument is played, not played, but like presented, and and each story I added a little hint showing that even though I might seem experienced in my own culture, there's these little hints and little sentences, just like maybe one or two sentences in each story, telling that I actually do not know what I'm doing. I'm just going off of what everyone is saying, and it's very hard. And this is going back to what that I claim that diversity, any regional diversity, American diversity, any diversity that has large countries or the acceptance of multicultural, that type of diversity, I feel like in a way is destroying a person's like identity, who they should be and who they are, and I see this a lot with like a lot of Hmong people, and it's happening to me too. I'm like a very I think I'm a very diverse Hmong person who is still traditional, and I think that that other Hmong people are experiencing this as well, and this is not probably, but this is like the reason why Hmong culture is dying off. This is the reason why I'm writing, this story, and obviously the title of my story is called "The Song of Expiring Breath" because I know that every person will die one day, and then this is the song that you will play at that Hmong person's funeral. But it's a symbol, you know, like it will be the last song that all Hmong people will hear, and this will be a very tragic day. And obviously, whoever is the last player to play this instrument will not hear the song because there'll be no one left who are skilled enough to play the song for that person, and that is very sad. And it really breaks your heart when you come to think about it. Even though diversity is good, because it opens up new opportunities and new perspectives on people, I feel like that itself is overshadowing the fact that diversity is slowly killing off what the old generation thought was good. And how I feel about, being the last person to play this instrument, obviously it is sad. I know that I'm most likely going to be the last person from my family to play this instrument, but I don't know about the other families. They might continue it. And to be honest, I think that Hmong culture will not last in the next maybe 200 years. Yeah, and that's my answer for that question.
Follow-up question to that. Why don't you think diversity and individuality can coexist with one another if you're still able to play the instrument and still in a way preserving your culture?
So I really do like that question because diversity and individuality do coexist with each other, and we see it through Hmong history. Of course, if you trace our history back all the way to the days of where we lived in China, that was the original Hmong people. But as we started moving down south due to, the many wars that we had with the Chinese emperors, you can start to see that the Hmong people are getting assimilated. Well, at this time, they're not called Hmong, but they're called the Miao people. And the Miao people are getting assimilated. And we see this individuality start to it starts to degrade because now this assimilation is technically like a form of diversity. It is like a form of diversity for like the Hmong people itself. Maybe for the Chinese people, this is not a form of diversity, but for Hmong people, like the people, it is like a form of diversity. We are learning about Chinese language. Hmong people back then in those ancient times, they had to speak Chinese. We didn't know how to speak Chinese. And as we left China, we went down more south to Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, and like Burma after, a couple wars like Vietnam, like the recent war, Vietnam War, and to the other countries like America, France, and South America. Like after we left China, we went to Laos and Vietnam, and we learned their cultures as well too. We learned their culture, and this increases our diversity, but decreases our individuality. And as we start to separate even more after the Vietnam War, it does the same thing as well. And why shouldn't, or what was the question? It was like how can these two subjects like coexist with each other, or why can't they coexist with
Why
each other?
don't you think that they can coexist?
So, in leading up to the point of why I don't think they should coexist, is that you're you're technically losing what. So for us as Hmong people, or for me, I believe like I want to go back home when I die. You know, when I die, I want to go back home and see grandma and grandpa. And I feel like when we lose this individual like aspirations, obviously the next generations maybe they don't care, right? They don't care, and that's like the diversity affecting them, because you know in American culture, you guys, your funerals are different from our funerals. And I've seen not yeah, and I've seen like some Hmong people, they don't hold traditional funerals no more, and they hold like Christian funerals, and I feel like this is bad, because to me when Auntie passed away, it didn't feel like Auntie really went back home. It felt like she's still in the casket, and that's how I kind of saw it. And I don't think that diversity and individuality should coexist with each other, because it creates this thin tension that is not really thin, but it's like a hidden tension that a lot of people don't even see. And you know, maybe it's because there's a language barrier between like the old world and the new world, and it could be like that. But that's how I kind of think. But at the same time, we do appreciate the diversity because it fills in those holes that we have. And you know, let's pretend like maybe all male players who play this instrument, they all have died out, and now the female players can take over, and that's the diversity. And that diversity in theory kind of continue on the Hmong culture. So that's like the only, that's like a good part of diversity. But then the individuality, how we think is that the man should do it. You know, that's yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
Fourth question they have is playing an instrument, often played at funerals, means you've witnessed a lot of death and grief. What has playing the instrument led you to understand about mortality? Is it something you think about a lot?
Of course, you know, I've been to over 10 funerals in my lifetime, and I'm basically 20 years old. I'm about to turn 20 in exactly a month from now. Today is December 3rd. And I've been to 10 funerals, and over 10 funerals. Like, I know that guaranteed 10 of them are my family members, and maybe the extra 5 or 8 that I've been to are like people who I helped. And when they come ask me to come help, and I go help them. And each time I go, I get new information. I learn more, and when I think about death, it's like it's a very sad process. It's a very tragic process, and it's like it's very saddening, because sometimes when you go into that funeral home, you don't know who it's gonna be, especially if it's someone that you never have known before, and you're just going just to help out because maybe their family said to come help out, or the people who are managing or playing the instrument, they tell you to come help out, so you don't ask questions, and you just go and help out. And I remember there's some young people who died. There's some very young people, and these people, they're not even in the 30s yet, and it's very like it messes with the mind, and yeah, it messes with the mind, and you start to question like, am I gonna go before 30? And to um, to make it even worse is that these people were born in America like me, and the people who are old and they die old, they're the ones who like they grew up in Asia. And you know, it makes you start thinking like, wow, this is like, it's truly tragic, like I don't even know what's happening here. And yeah, I guess I kind of, it is really sad. It breaks my heart every time I see a slideshow, because at the funeral they show you a slideshow, and it sometimes you don't want to look at it, but you just have to look at it because everyone else is looking at it. And yeah, that's how I kind of think about mortality and how going to these funerals changed my mind of mortality. Because when I was young, I thought that when you finally pass away, it's just like sleeping. But no, when you in a Hmong traditional sense, you take on this very lengthy journey all the way back to our ancestral lands, which is just basically China. And that's what I've learned. And they take you this whole process, and it's very interesting, but it's very sad because the words that they use is kind of like the old language of Hmong, but it's once you know what it actually means, it just tears your heart apart every time you just hear the same song. But yeah.
Awesome. Um, Another question they have for you is, how do you reconcile with the fact that the Hmong culture might meet its end soon?
How do I reconcile that? You know, I just kind of accept it, to be honest. I'm the youngest brother. I'm the youngest uncle. I'm one of the youngest grandfathers of this time era because my family clan is very old, but just that me, my father, and our great ancestor were just the youngest brothers, so that eventually led everybody else to be the older ones. And for example, my cousin is like in his 80s, and he has great grandkids already. So in our family line, that means that his great grandkids are also my great grandkids. And how do I feel about this? That knowing that those children will not continue our culture, it's sad. It hurts. Like it really does hurt, because when I grew up, my grandma and my grandpa, basically my elders, they passed away when I was 3 years old, and these are the people who they fought war. Like they actually fought war, and they sacrificed everything they had, their homes, the livestock, the food. Some of their babies have to die in the war, so that because they would cry, and then the enemies would hear that and they just shoot directly at that position. So many people, they died in the war. And I grew up with my family, and we were always taught that grandpa, whatever we did, grandpa was what we praised and worshiped, right? So as I grew up, and I'm understanding this, and I'm knowing that Hmong culture is dying, I do feel sad because I want to see grandma and grandpa, you know, because even though I'm like scientifically intelligent and I do know I predict that what will happen after death. And but I like to like cover that up with like my own cultural background, so that it loosens the burden that I have to carry of just thinking about death, because I do fear death. I am scared of it. I don't know what's beyond that, and I don't want to see just all black. So I like to say that using culture is a way to soothe that thought, and knowing that these future Hmong, maybe kids or adults or even elders, they might not even carry on the culture no more. And what this means to me is that they will not bring us back home, because a deceased cannot bring himself back home. You need someone who knows how to play this instrument to bring them back home. And it that's what scares me. At the same time, uh, it really saddens me, but I really can't do much about it, but just only be like the storyteller to tell my story, so that maybe one day someone from a different culture will pick it up for us and continue it on. Because Hmong is just like a diverse group of people. It's an ethnic group. You could be Laos, you could be full-blooded Laotian, and we'll just accept you as a Hmong person, because that is one way diversity helps us. But overall, I think diversity is slowly killing us off, and I don't think a lot of people are realizing that. And yeah, so that will be the end of this mini podcast. Well, kind of mini. It's like 30 minutes long, but thank you for listening. Thank you, Riven. Thank you, Tanvi, and thank you, Alex, for asking me these questions. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see Hmong people in the future to continue on our traditions and cultures at the same time. Not to alter it as much as what is happening now. I do know that today we're altering the way how we play our songs and how we sing and how we dance. And fun fact, there's Hmong Koreans now, and I didn't even know that they existed. And yep, so yeah. I don't even know how to end this, but I guess I could say, yeah. Thank you for listening to this podcast here. And if you're ever wondering why did I only write one instrument or one of the many instruments that Hmong people had, it's because the other Hmong instruments they have already died off, and that's truly sad. And they didn't really died off, but they're already dying off more faster than this the keng, because the keng is like a sorry, my voice is like dying right now, but the keng is like a very special instrument that makes it truly special. So it will be the last to die off. The other instrument like the bamboo flute, the the seesaw, uh, the leaf, yeah, those instruments, they're already dying off, and I can't find anyone to play those for us. But anyways, that's the end of this podcast. Thank you for listening again. I really do appreciate it. Spread the word. Leave a like. Subscribe. Put a comment down below on what you think about this. What I've said so far. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.